2 years ago, a student came to HPAC with the idea of having a race to benefit the school. And we learned at the time the school was the lowest performing school in Seattle Public Schools. And the reaction to HPAC was pretty emotional, and people really wanted to see that changed. So at the time, Principal Cronas, along with Israel Beta and several other speakers came and spoke, and there was a packed house here. It was very moving, and the people at HPAC wanted to know what we could do. So it's been 2 years, and we don't have a packed house, so you're doing a great job. Anyway, I'm going to take, that's the backstory. And then over to you.
That's excellent. I don't know how much of an introduction I have to do, but I'm a community member. I'm involved with the Highland Park Elementary PTA. I got involved because of that HPAC. Chris came to us from Woodwood Elementary, and we're very fortunate to have him at the head of our school. And so great things have been happening at Highland Park Elementary, and he's here to talk to us about our kids.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys taking the time to hear a little bit of our story. It hasn't quite been 2 years. I don't want to think it has been that long because we haven't gotten enough done in that amount of time. But what I will say that what's been working at the school has been because of the relationships, the people who serve our community. And one of those folks is Holly Briscoe. Holly's our PTA president. And Holly's done a great job of really galvanizing our PTA and getting folks behind a collaboratively developed mission and vision. Connie has also been a huge part of that. It's always good to have Big Mike around because he brings good food. But having said that, in all seriousness, we've, I think, come a pretty long way in a short time. Unfortunately, our little school has had kind of a rough reputation, and I think it's a bit unfounded after being there for a couple of years. We have a great community. We are not without our issues. We are not without our problems. We serve a high poverty community. 80% of our students qualify for free and reduced price lunch, and that's a lot of kids. Poverty brings challenges. Kids show up to school with food insecurity. Who knows where they slept the night before. I had a kid come to school 2 weeks ago. She spent the night in the U-Haul. That happened in America in 2016. So, we serve her community, but it's an amazing community, and there are people who love their kids, who want the best for their kids, who are trying to make their lives work, and we are there to serve them. One of the things that we've done to really address our school's needs is focus and raise awareness around social and emotional learning. When I came into the building, there had been attempts at implementing a system to recognize positive behaviors, and it had come and gone. It kind of got off the ground, and there was an AP, from what I understand, a couple years prior to my arrival, who was leading it, and it was beginning to work, but it didn't have enough to get folks there. And then when the school got a new principal and 3/4 of the staff left, that made things even more challenging because we lost all the institutional knowledge. And when you lose that many people, all of that institutional knowledge they carry, it makes you're basically starting from scratch again, which is very, very challenging. We have a full-time counselor now, thanks to the work we did in advocating for the school and during budget time. And we've managed to keep that counselor for next year as well. She's made a huge difference in supporting students, and providing more opportunities for kids to connect with therapeutic services outside of school, with Sound Mental Health or NAVOS or Neighbor Care, different community-based organizations. We were able to keep our assistant principal, even with the budget cuts that have happened, so we're really thankful for that. And what's beginning to happen is we're starting to see the team congeal and really address our students' needs, both academically and behaviorally, in ways that, perhaps I think really well-intentioned people have tried in the past, but have not been as perhaps successful. It takes the right amount of support from district, from our community, and from the individuals who serve their school, the teachers and staff. We still are a low-performing school. We will continue to be for a little while, but we do see changes happening. We're starting to see our kids pick up speed. I was talking to one of our first grade teachers today, and 80% of her students in her class are on par to be reading at grade level by the end of the school year. And that's our goal. We got to get our third graders reading at grade level. If they hit the grade level, then we can actually have a true and profound effect on the school to prison pipeline. We know what we've got to do, and we have the expertise in the building to do it, I believe, and we've got the community support. With that, I wanted to offer an opportunity just to take a few questions if folks would like to ask any, and I'll try my best to answer them.
I thought maybe we could talk about the school and then look at the larger systemic issues that we're here to.
Sure, yeah.
My first thought is budgeting. I mean, we got an email about libraries and how they're funded and how very little money to replace books and whatnot. And I just happened to have talked to a friend of mine from Wedgwood Elementary whose PTA just raised $100,000 at
They
the
do it
auction.
annually, yeah.
And K5 STEM raised $75,000. What does the funding look like at Highland Park in comparison? Can you guys speak to that?
We don't raise $100,000.
Why don't you let me, Kay sent out this infographic, and I only made about 9 copies of it, because I'm kind of cheap when it comes to colored copies, so I don't know who hasn't seen this?
To give you an idea, Craig, our number one fundraiser is 50-cent bag of popcorn every Friday.
And how much do you make from that?
I think we spend about $700 and earn at the end of the year $1,000.
With that money that Wedgwood gets, I mean, they're increasing their FDA, they're getting more staffing. I mean, please do that.
Leslie Harris, I'm your school board director in West Seattle and South Park. And the concept of equity is on the front of everyone's mind. A great many of the schools, about 99 schools, earn in auctions and in fundraisings and on big gives well over $100,000 a year. Some schools pay for staffing. Many schools in the state and throughout the country will not allow PTSAs to purchase staffing because of the equity issues, and also because of the liability issues in terms of sustainable funding. But for instance, to show you the inequity, John Stanford International School and McDonald International School, within 3 miles of each other, north of Lake Union, terrific immersion programs, came to the board last month, and for the 6th year in a row, had $500,000 gifts to the school district approved. Anything over $250,000 is spent or accepted as a gift has to be approved by the school board. And everybody puts their head in their hands and winces because we all know that's inequitable. But otherwise, they don't have the instructional assistants to run their programs. And I might add that most of the instructional assistants are recruits from Spain that get $150 a month and a homestay. So you've got another level of inequity there that needs to be addressed. And Concord, down the hill, has Title I and LAP funds. And one of the pushback defenses is, well, Title I and LAP funds make up the difference. I'm here to tell you that's just unmitigated BS. And LAP funds and Title I funds are not to be hiring instructional assistants for immersion, but they're to close the opportunity gap, which is really significant for kids of color and non-English language learners. So, Seattle Public Schools has what they call the Weighted Staffing Standard Formula, the WSS. And it goes into a back room and a computer, librarians, library books, assistant principals, counselors, family support workers, etc. Each school's BLT has to make decisions based on their anticipated enrollment.
Can you say what BLT is?
Building Leadership Team, it's part of the Seattle Education Association, the teachers union's contract. It has to have parental reps on it, but parental reps don't get to vote. So ostensibly, parents and teachers, with the principal's leadership, decides how they're going to cut up the dollars and what are the resources that we need the most. And if you recall back in the recession, we got rid of career and college counselors. You'll recall we got rid of counselors, and now it's, again, part of the menu. One of the things that's happening right now is the Family and Education Levy that the city funds is changing their focus, highly data-driven testing, and we're going to be down to 4 city-funded family support workers. If you have a problem with that, I invite you to come to the Mayor's Educational Summit on Saturday at Garfield. The mayor is making noises as well about taking over the city schools, and we're appointing board members to where you don't have accountability. If you don't like the job I do, then you get to vote me out. We got significant problems in the Seattle Public Schools. We've got well over 70 mitigation requests from 99 schools on the budget cycle right now, and 4 of them have been granted.
So only 4 of 70?
That's
What's
correct.
a mitigation?
Mitigation money is, our school is special, we have a special need here, and your formula on the weighted staffing standards doesn't work for us because we have a really high population of needy kids. Out of 70, 4 have been granted. You recall in the last legislature, the legislature saw fit to give money to charter schools, but we kicked the can down the road on McCleary, and we currently owe $29.8 million in fines at $100,000 a day. So, this is getting to be crazy time. And how good people can do good work for our biggest treasure, our kids, you got me. I'm sure that the Seattle Police Department would like more money. I'm sure the Seattle Police Department needs more money. But it's not working. The system is exceptionally broken. A couple of other examples that I need you to hear, because we're in the same catchment area. Chief South International High School that has a nationally renowned international baccalaureate program, right? Something to be proud of. When John Boyd was here, he turned that school around so that we could be proud of it. Well, guess what? The grant funding ran out. It's an expensive program. So the expenses in that program have to come from somewhere else. Woodshop, they just lost their woodshop teacher. It'll be either a 0.6 or a 0.8 if they can find a qualified teacher to teach woodshop, and this is one of the last 3 in the district. These are really tough, ugly times. Another thing that has come up, and Highland Park is, I think, the long-term beneficiary of this, is that the Seattle Preschool Partnership is going to be putting in a preschool there at Highland Park. That does mean, however, that Head Start with 2 classes a day is going to have to move out, and they'll move to either Rocks Hill or Concord. But instead of 2.5 hours a day, it'll be 6 hours of really high quality preschool. I'd like to brag a little bit that myself and some of my fellow board members pushed back real hard with the City of Seattle and their Families and Education Levy folks and amended the expansion to include, inclusion of special ed kids. When we voted for that levy, no allowances were made for special ed kids. You've got original Van Asselt School, where they had one this last year, because it's rolling out, sharing a wall with a special ed preschool, 2.5 hours compared to 6. It's beyond unethical to me, it's immoral. So there's some good things happening as well. I think in the next year we'll probably have a conversation, and we may start that on Saturday at this city's summit, if you will, about PTSA equalization. There are folks here in West Seattle that are talking about it already if we can't do it citywide, which means that if Schmitz Park and Pathfinder and Lafayette are raising money in auctions, can they distribute 10% of what they do to a low-income school like Highland Park? Share the wealth. And share the work, too, for that matter. And you got to remember that PTSAs, for the most part, are made up of people that have time and have, what's the word I want to say? The cultural, organizational abilities. And we don't see our single-parent families necessarily, or our ELL families necessarily. So that's another part of that structural piece. I've got cards here. I need to hear from y'all. And when I need help, I need you to come. I need you to stand up and get counted and say, West Seattle needs X, Y, or Z. Because somebody was saying on the board a couple of weeks ago, well, I'm not a politician. Well, first of all, I don't think one should have to apologize for being an elected official. And 2, funding in education is absolutely political. And anybody that tells you that it's not is not being straight with you. So we got to fight like heck. And we got to do right by our kids. That helps?
So Leslie,
Yeah.
I'm a fighter and not a lover. So what sort of tangible things can Highland Park ask for, and what means do you think we should do it? Like you're saying, like the mayor is trying to intercede in education, so should we be calling the city council's committee that's in charge of education, and what should we be asking for? So,
And ask for wraparound services, kids that are fed when they come to school, and to address the 3,000 homeless kids in our schools.
do you know how many are at Highland Park Elementary, or like around about,
Yeah, I mean, I
ballpark
could
figure?
give you a rough number, yeah, it changes almost weekly, but we probably have about 10 kids right now who are homeless, maybe more. A lot of times we don't know. We're lucky when we know because we can set them up with transportation. So we can get out. When that happens,
Are the kids living with other relatives, or?
it
are they living
depends.
on
Every
the
kid's
street?
situation's different. Like I had a parent and her kid. They ended up at a hotel in Skyway for a little while. I had another family who was living with a friend in Kirkland. I had I mean, it depends. Every family's a little different. They just try to make it work for what they got in the moment. It depends what kinds of network they have here in the community, and often that, more often than not, the network either is already too tapped to support or help, or doesn't exist, so they've got to figure something else out. But we have several community-based organizations at our school, one of which is called Communities in Schools. And our Communities in Schools coordinator, his name's Derek Diaz, he's a good guy. He's the one who takes point when something like this happens. And it's not just about homelessness, though. Like, I know that's a huge issue, but, we have plenty of families who aren't homeless, but, one of them, I got a family whose their home's infested with bed bugs, and the landlord won't do a damn thing. So, it's not just about homelessness, it's about poverty. It's just, they can't get out of the situation. They don't have $3,000 to drop to rent a new place. That's what it takes now. And especially, our community's changing. The demographics changing because more and more families who can't afford to live in the city core are beginning to just shift out, and they're coming to Highland Park, and the community is changing and the rents are going up. There's a housing shortage in Seattle. It's all this big knotted mess of social issues that we begin to try and solve when kids walk in the door in preschool. So without going big picture, back to our school, a couple of things we can do, and maybe the Highland Park Improvement Club could do, is just keep us in mind. I know that Holly's done a great job, along with Connie, of coordinating efforts with outside organizations to provide support to the school. They did a landscaping thing recently. I'm not afraid to ask if you guys are I understand you. I heard you talking about a bar. That's always fun. So is tipping, and maybe tips could go to the school. We could use a couple extra bucks. I'm not going to be shy about it. We don't see the kind of money that Wedgwood raises, not even a fraction. So, we've done a couple of GoFundMe campaigns, and that's been incredibly successful. I really appreciate our teachers for spearheading that. It ended up enabling us to purchase T-shirts for all the kids, and putting a huge dent in the overall cost for our fifth grade students to attend camp this year. So if there's a way for Highland Park Improvement Club to coordinate some fundraising that would be mutually beneficial to this nonprofit organization and ours, that would be fantastic. Back to I know who you are.
Well, just don't say Director Harris.
I was going to go director, but back to what I was saying, around preschool, we are now at the preschool site, and we're really excited about it because we already have our teacher selected. We've told her, and she's thrilled about it. She's one of the most highly qualified teachers we have in the building, and she's certified early childhood, and we're really looking forward to this experience. And here's the other thing we need from you. I've been reaching out to local churches. Both myself and our assistant principal, Ms. Stone, are enrolled in an executive leadership program through the University of Washington that focuses exclusively on pre-K through third grade. And the focus of the content is around how to better support students 0 to 5. Education has traditionally been a kindergarten, K-12 experience for most of us. But we know, based on all the research, that the most important teacher in a kid's life is their parent, and the most important years of learning in a child's life is 0 to 5. And actually, it's negative numbers. It begins in utero. That's when it starts. That's when language acquisition begins. One of the biggest challenges we have with our community is that we serve so many students who speak English as a second language. We have about 130 kids in our school. It's just a little more than a third. We're juggling two things. We're exposing kids to English for sometimes the first time, and we're trying to honor their heritage, their culture. I have 2 kids who speak a language other than English, and it is a challenge. We read in both languages just to make sure that they're getting both of what they need. Now, not all families can do that, and it impacts kids long term. There's a famous study done called the 30 million word study. Has anyone ever heard of that? Crickets. Okay, the 30 million word study, it was done years ago. So basically what researchers did is they isolated the frequency that children were exposed to language, the numbers of words they heard, and the types of words they heard. And based on where you're born, I mean, you're born into this. I mean, you're either born into it and you're not. And you're lucky you land in a professional family's world. The kid who lands in that world, they're going to be exposed to 30 million more words than a child born into poverty will by the time they are in kindergarten. 30 million words, that's the difference. It's insane when you really think about the quantity, right? And the volume. So we're hitting an uphill battle the moment they walk through the door. So what I need your help with, what Highland Park needs your help with, is networking. I need to know where kids are going to preschool. I need to know who these people are so we can talk with them. I need their phone numbers, their email addresses. I just want to grow our network so that I've already begun reaching out to churches. Ms. Stone is working on curriculum. She's a masterful at that. They're developing play and learn lessons for our really little ones who come in, 3 years old, 4 years old. And we're trying to improve the content kids are exposed to, teach parents how they can teach their kids. And the best part about that is that it's not rocket science. It's actually a lot of fun. You just play with them. And all these things kind of just happen. So finding the time for families to do that, though, that's the hard part for families, especially working families or families where there's single parents or they need multiple jobs to get the income they need. It's really hard. So we want to identify the kids earlier, find out who the caregivers are, provide training and support to the caregivers, and just help our community. So that's what you could do, and that's how I'd love to partner with this group.
Have you talked to the Southwest Youth and Family Services at all? They seem like they have a similar program to the one that you're talking about, and they do it in multiple languages.
Great.
Ron Angeles.
Yeah.
What's his name?
His name's Ron Angeles. He's
Ron
out west
Angeles?
I believe it's
Southwest.
more aimed at older kids, but
Ron knows
absolutely.
everybody in
Actually,
West.
here.
He knows everybody in town.
Oh, there you go.
He's the bomb.
He's the man.
Perfect.
He is
Oh,
the-
yeah. Our CIS coordinator's been working with this group. Sure, okay.
So I'm going to just say something. You mentioned the bar, the corner bar, for those of you guys, and I was thinking about what you were saying about the families with young kids. This is a corner bar for the families. This is like some people call it like daycare for the grown-ups and the kids. From 6 to 9. Seriously, there are so many families here, there's so many kids here you would not believe it. And there's a lot of them that are little. The kids are growing up together. And so if you haven't been here and you've got kids, I mean, the kids know each other. It's like, it might be worthwhile just coming here and just like and connecting with some people.
Okay.
You know, some of the families, maybe they're going to your school, maybe they're not going to your
Yeah.
school, maybe they're going to another school. But they're all West Seattle families for the most part. And I think it might be a good way to connect in a social
Yeah,
setting.
I'd love to.
And, you could have an agenda or not have an agenda, but, just, be social. And I think that would actually be a good thing to do.
The principal of the school, I've always got an agenda.
Well, okay,
But I do it with a smile.
But you know what, we could even, like, if there was like a special thing you wanted to make an announcement for, I mean, I'm on the board,
Great.
I mean, we have board meetings, we could talk about maybe doing some fundraising,
Terrific.
for your school, but I think that, we want to support you guys and we want you to be successful.
I appreciate that very
So,
much.
yeah.
I'd love to join you sometime.
Yeah, so it's with
Figure
First
out when.
Friday, buddy, so don't forget, First Friday.
May
First
6th.
Friday, May 6th.
On our son's birthday.
Whose birthday?
Oh, Mikey?
Oh, yeah?
Little Mikey's birthday.
Nice.
Question.
Yeah, and how about volunteers throughout the community? How do you
Well-
incorporate them in the PTA and
Well, I think Holly could speak to the PTA, Connie too, obviously. But for us, we have a program in our school called Reading Partners. And one of the things we've done is we've done enough research ourselves and we've looked at enough research that's out there to identify programs that we know are going to have the biggest bang for the buck. Reading Partners it provides proprietary curriculum and one-on-one reading tutors where kids develop a relationship, the most important thing that can happen, with their tutor, and sit with them in the Reading Partners space and they read with their tutor a couple times a week, and it's one of our interventions to support our lowest readers. This is our first year with them, so it took a little while to get ramped up because just finding the volunteers has been a bit of a challenge. We have a lot of people now, and they've been coming consistently. We've been able to connect them with specific kids. That would be a great way to volunteer because we could use more support with that. Additionally, it boils down to teachers' needs in classrooms for us, and that is a little more difficult to say, okay, we need X number of people. However, with PTA, it does look a little bit different. Maybe Holly could speak to that.
Oh, there's so much I could say. So we have a monthly meeting. We try really hard. Communication is a really difficult thing. We try really hard to put things out there on the blog. We have predictable routine things that happen, like popcorn sales every Friday that we need help with that. But then we also have things that just kind of constantly come up. I think what's super helpful is there's a volunteer who's been in the library for 45 years. There are two women who have taken over the staff room and made it their own. I don't know who they are or where they came from. Maybe they went to school there.
They went to school there.
Yeah.
No, they're amazing. They live in Kent and they drive up every day.
Oh, the mother and daughter.
Yeah, it's Grandma and Rhonda. I don't know Grandma's name. She's Grandma.
Right.
That's it. And that's
She
okay.
got an award that I gave, we volunteered for an award and she got it.
Yeah.
So Grandma and Rhonda are there, and they're making copies, and they're laminating, and they're die cutting,
They
and
never
there's
stop.
another woman, Fox, whose children go there, and she's just a full-time, all-the-time volunteer. It's a little bit fractured, I have to say. They're not necessarily under the PTA umbrella, which can be frustrating at times, because I go to make a copy, and it's lovely that it's already in the mailbox, but I wish someone would have told me. But I just have to be thankful for the good things that are happening. But so Fox is moving, so there's always an opportunity to come and make copies, be a part of what's happening at Highland Park.
Our office staff goes in, for sure. There's always something to do. Yeah.
And reading
Well,
partners.
so the reading partners people, do you have to volunteer through them or do you contact the school?
You can just contact the
volunteer
school and
department?
we'll get you connected. Yeah.
Is that something you still need this year or is it too close to the school year?
With only 9 weeks left of the school year, I'm not sure how, we might. I mean, I'm not going to say no. But the intervention is supposed to last the entire school year, or at least the vast majority of it. And with 9 weeks left of the 36-week school year, that can be a little bit difficult. But do contact the school regardless if you are interested or know someone who might be, and whether it's this year or next, that would be great.
I'd like to take a moment to say I was supposed to be home 5 minutes ago to relieve my babysitter. But I just wanted to say thank you to HPAC and to HPAC and to Chris. I feel like, and to Connie, I feel like we go through life in circles and we have these friends. And, oh, this friend, well, I really want to introduce him to this friend, and I know they'd get along great. And it's wonderful, and Leslie, to have everyone here in the same room. I feel really passionate about community. I feel really passionate about kids and education, and it's just awesome to see us all at the table together. I've seen kind of HPIC go through a revitalization. I'm seeing Highland Park Elementary School kind of a few steps behind, and the PTA and the school itself are kind of in parallel tracks, coming together, being more cohesive, creating community, helping to bridge the equity gap, and conquer the world. So, thank you.
We have time for a difficult question.
Yeah.
There are no easy questions.
I think this community is changing.
Yeah.
Prices are going up. The demographic is changing. You come here, you're in a corner bar, you look at the demographic. It's very, I think we can do things to change that, but that's not what my point is. I look at the 90% free and reduced lunch, and that is not diversity. In my mind, right? Diversity is economic diversity. And my child is at K-5 STEM where we've got, we have a whole broad range of incomes. And what can, when I asked this, I think at the last meeting, it was like, well, go to your school, go to your neighborhood school, but a lot of parents in this room are doing that. I didn't do that, I'm not alone. It's, how do we encourage, beyond just telling me, go to your neighborhood school, how can we make the schools strong for all populations? That's my question.
Well, and I appreciate asking that question. The only way to make schools strong is to look at schools and fund schools through a lens of equity. It's the only way it's going to happen. And even then, it's going to be tough because you can't buy your way out of the mess we're in.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Buying even at 9%, okay, take 10% of your auction and give it to.
I mean,
that's sort of almost token in my mind.
Well, yeah, and in fact, a PTA president actually reached out to myself and to Holly recently to ask if we wouldn't mind being included on their direct appeal form, and families could choose to donate a portion of their donation to our school. Again, I'm thankful because frankly, we could use the money. I'm not going to turn down anybody. But at the same time, we can't buy our way out of this. One of the most interesting things that I've come across recently is just, I keep seeing more and more now about busing in Seattle and the busing changes, the shift, right? I was talking to Torio actually about this. Torio went to Ingram, I think, right? Yeah. So Torio Manning is our playground supervisor, great guy, and he participated in the whole busing thing in Seattle. And one of the things that I was reading a Facebook post about, and all these people started chiming in out of nowhere, it just blew up, where they're talking about how much they got out of that experience, because we really did desegregate schools. And what's happened, and especially in this city, this is one of the most segregated cities in America. It's profound, actually. When I first moved here, I was like, what's happening? I didn't even understand where I was. I moved here from Tokyo via New York, and I went from one of the most diverse places on earth to one of the most homogeneous places on earth to one of the most divided places on earth. And what's interesting is that there's a study done by this guy, I've forgotten his name, out of UCLA. I think he's at UCLA now, pretty sure, who's used his research staff to look at metadata behind unconscious thought. We only process 40 bits per second consciously, but we process millions of bits per second unconsciously. And all of his research is focused on how we look at bias and how we become biased. And what breaks down those barriers is exposure, questions, and opportunities to be with people of other cultures. And the interesting thing about what I see through this is that when Seattle lost the Supreme Court case and we had to basically resegregate schools, for lack of a better term, we ended up really shooting ourselves in the foot, because one of the other things that came out of that same work that guy is doing is that it's very, very difficult to create a sustainable culture in a school of academic success and social emotional success and health when the school is above 40% free and reduced lunch. High poverty schools are in communities that are traditionally people of color, disenfranchised, and unless we desegregate the socioeconomic, how do I say this? Unless we address the socioeconomic challenges and desegregate schools in a different way than we did before and bring people together, I don't really know how we're going to get out of this mess. And it's not unique to Seattle. This is unique to every district in America. But it's a huge problem, and if we don't address it, if you think this election cycle's bad, wait till the next one.